Okay, cool. Hello everybody, and Merry Christmas to everybody, of course. Welcome back to another live stream. We're at Rovieniemi, also known as Lapland in Finland, and we're on stand 6 at the moment with the gate attached to us. Quite busy, of course. We're on VATSIM, connected as always to the network, and there's a lot of aircraft flying in and out. I'm just calculating our flex temp and our performance for departure. Runway 03 is expected. And it's given us a flex temp of 57 degrees. Let's head into the flight deck and have a little look at that. .57. Need to really do the initial page as well, actually, while I think about it. That was 21.45, which is fine. 5.2 is going to be more than enough, in fact far too much. 3.7 is telling us, but 5.24 is what we're going to go with. Because that's what SimBrief says. And there's our V-speeds, different to the calculator that I've got, but that uses the old school A320 Neo. So, Dominic, welcome. Very Merry Christmas to you as well. Thank you. Hope you had a good day yesterday. And Helsinki, we've got some scenery for it. What runway did I say we were going to land on? 04 right is what we're planning for. ILS, and we want treble 1.5. Are there any VORs and such? Helsinki VOR 114.2. That's in case we get vectored onto runway 34, I believe it is. That's a VOR approach. So we are all pretty much ready to go. If you're new to the channel, very warm welcome. QNH 1011, flight level is flight level 310 today, and I just need to input all of our data into vPilot as well. EFTP for a diversion. File.
Rovieniemi traffic, North Shuttle 61 Romeo taking off runway 03 on Mach 3 Bravo departure.
Quite a bit of admin to do when you're starting the trip on VATSIM, of course. Tan, very Merry Christmas to you as well. You need to remind me actually what route you requested. Singapore, I think, wasn't it? But I've misplaced my piece of paper and I can't find where I wrote it down. So the route that you requested the other week, please do let me know. I've got the icing on because just before we started off the stream, everything started to ice over, so I've turned all of that on already. Done fueling, so let's turn the seatbelt signs on, and we can get rid of the air bridge. Kevin, thank you very much. Very Merry Christmas, and if I see him I shall say hello. Mr. Espresso, welcome. Merry Christmas. Thank you for tuning in. Let's turn that nav display down and the PFD a little bit because they're quite bright. So we're using Rovieniemi freeware And we're not using Unreal Weather today, we're actually using the standard Microsoft Flight Simulator weather, because Unreal Weather doesn't factor in snow on the ground properly yet, so we're having a little look at the new snow stuff with the latest update. That was it, Singapore to Kuala, thank you. Let's jot that down. Tom, good question. What do you mean the airports aren't spawning in? Look at all that ice on the airframe. That's going to be mad. So, we are ready for pushback. Just make sure I've got my maps ready for Rovieniemi. Open charts list, parking stands.
Rovieniemi traffic, rush, North Shot 61 runway clear, runway 03.
6. So, just as we start pushback, there's the Navograph charts for you guys. Rovieniemi traffic, Finnair 534, stand 6, push start, facing south.
Cockpit to ground.
Go ahead, flight deck.
We are ready for pushback and engine start.
Roger. Release the parking brakes, please.
Parking brakes released.
Probably put the
Pushing
beacon on.
back.
That would help, wouldn't it? Let's power the FADEX. And this is as bright as it gets. Dom, interesting. Let's click on then and have a little look at the difference. Whoa. We'll give it a minute to load. Oh. I tried this earlier and it wasn't really working, but you know what? Let's go back to Unreal Weather then. Tom, in that case I would imagine there's a piece of scenery that's conflicting with your files. Zach, hello, welcome. Can't even see the taxi lines here. I know there is a taxi line going off this way, so there's going to be a yellow line here. Got some new sounds for the A320X. And Rovieniemi, it's some freeware scenery, very basic, but it's free nonetheless. And Helsinki as well is also freeware scenery for us. Can't even see the yellow line, I'm just assuming where it is. There's engine 2 available, engine 1 start. Let's stop the pushback there.
Pushback complete. Set parking brakes, please.
Parking brakes set.
Roger. Okay, the tow bar is disconnected and the equipment is clear. We will see you on the left side with the pin.
Thanks, and you can disconnect and go to hand signals.
Thanks. Have a good flight. See you later.
So, he's moving clear. Where have all them aircraft gone? Oh, there's the Finnair guy. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be. There was a British Airways 787 actually spawned in, but he's obviously gone. There's an aircraft having departed there. Engine 1's available. Mission mode norm. Taxi lights. Let's put strobes on auto for now and landing lights just on off. Yep, there's that one there. Good. Just reply to him. So, park brake off. Rovieniemi traffic, Finnair 534, taxi to runway 03 via Tango and Alpha. Tan, interesting. Explain in the chat how exactly you're doing it, because I'll have a little look at that later. Cause certainly nothing that I've seen in progress just yet, so it must be something new. So maybe an update has been snuck into the mod by secret and nobody's picked it up yet. So we're going to be flying the Renvi 3 Bravo departure today. Sid. Renvi 3 Bravo. That's what that looks like. So we're going to take off runway 3, turn right at Rovieniemi 363, max 200 knots, and then round back on ourselves down to Renvi. I'm going to set that speed limit now, so it gives us one less thing to do. And everyone, spoilers armed, flaps takeoff configuration, config test, and all cool. We've factored in for the V speeds, we're going to leave all the icing on as well for this. Rovieniemi traffic at Finnair 534, departing runway 03 on a Renvi 3 Bravo departure. So VAR Alpha, which we've just passed, onto the runway, all the lights. I wonder if that's a new feature then, Tan, that's been snuck in. That's pretty interesting. So how exactly has that been working for you? There's a Finnair flight that's just pushed back over there as well. It's nose forward. 50. And we're on flex. Rotate. Little crosswind to contend with there, positive breaker up. Let's leave ourselves on thrust.
Rovieniemi traffic, Finnair 2 Charlie Foxtrot, taxiing runway 03.
And we're holding that speed restriction now. Flap boy, hello, welcome. Let's continue a climb up to our cruise, flight level 310. And then we can go Alt 6, or actually Alt 5. Keep getting my viewpoints mixed up. Check that out. A couple of hours, I think maybe 4 hours of sunlight a day. I'd imagine then it's a work in progress, so they've just enabled the function and not really gone much further, but it'll be interesting to see how long that's going to take to become an active button then and work nicely. max 230 knots for the next turn. So we'll just stick to 210, and then when we complete the turn, we'll then continue on managed speed. Around about a 1 hour 30-minute flight time, and we're just basically heading south all the way in a straight line down to Helsinki. Here's our next turn. Rovieniemi down off just above the Sharklet there. And I'll just quickly head back into the flight deck. We're completing the turn now, so I'm going to go back onto managed speed. There's the moon.
Rovieniemi traffic, Finnair 2 Charlie Fox, line up 03 right and take off.
Get a screenshot of that, that's pretty cool. Look at the detail of the moon. Just zoom in on that. Look at that. That's madness. Standard, and we're going to go to take those off and seatbelt signs off. We're going to pass 10,000. Flap boy, nice. If you are new to the channel, we're on the road to 1,000 now, so make sure you click that subscribe button. There'll be a link in the live chat as well from the Streamlabs bot with the link to our Discord server. Head to there and get all the information for our group flight that will be coming when we reach that target number. Over that 10,000 foot now. Just going to snap back a little bit because I want to have a little look at the drone cam from another view. Delivery, of course, is available on flightsim.to, and both of the airport scenery, so Rovaniemi and Helsinki, which we're about to check out when we get there, they're both available for free to download as well on flightsim.to. Still waiting, of course, for the Aerosoft CRJ to be released. I think by the sounds of it that's going to be delayed into maybe mid-January now, I think, by the sounds of it. Interestingly, I was on the forum yesterday, and it looks like they've, so the guys that are developing the aircraft, it looks like they've been hushed by their marketing team. So now we're not really getting the transparency through their development anymore, which is a shame. Aerosoft have basically said that they want their marketing team to control the flow of information in relation to the CRJ, which I can understand, but at the same time it was their transparency and the information they were providing, the sneak pictures, the sneak preview videos of the aircraft's development, and that was what was really good about it. Tom, in that case I would probably recommend reinstalling the entire sim then, if that was the case. As painful as that is going to be, there must be something broken inside of your actual sim for it not to be spawning the airport buildings properly. Which is a real shame. Having said that, you shouldn't necessarily have to wait too long for a download, depending on your speeds. I think they've made it a lot quicker these days. So we're going to have a little look at our route on Navograph, just so you guys can visualise where we're going today. And we've departed Rovieniemi, as we can see here, on that Renvi 3 Bravo departure. And those 2 right turns to head south onto the Yankee 86 airway via Renvi. And we're going to fly this Yankee 86 airway basically all the way down. To Lusep, and Lusep is the beginning of our arrival route into Helsinki. So just one airway all the way down direct from Rovieniemi, and then you can see us joining that approach there. Now interestingly, Navograph doesn't add in the extra bits, but what we can do is select that Lus 3, what was our arrival route? This is my flight plan on Lus 3 Romeo, which is that one. So we go ahead and add that to the routes as we've just done. And then the approach, we can change that to ILS 04 right. And there we go. So we've got that little bridge there across between the 2 different arrival routes. And then into Helsinki. Now if the winds favour it particularly, what we could do is land on runway 33, which is RMP or VOR. So we could fly that if we wanted to, and there's obviously the radials and things out from that VOR station. But we're going to be flying an ILS into runway 04 right, or at least as we've planned currently. And there's our widened view for you guys. No problem, Tom. Let me know how it goes. Hopefully that fixes it. Let's do 1500 foot per minute. Still need to work on the video on how to set my custom views for you guys. ILS 15, let's have a little look at the METAR. EFHK. So the winds are 330 at 6 knots. We could land on 15, runway 15, but because we've got runway 04 left and right, we could use for arrival with it giving us a headwind. We'll use those. We would, in theory, we'd be better off using the VOR for runway 33. So, in fact, I'll leave that up to you guys to decide. Actually, if put it in the live chat. There we go. So I'll put it down to a public vote whether we do the VOR arrival or the ILS. I've not done an ILS for a little while actually, to be fair. Those of you watching a couple of days ago on Christmas Eve, we did a little bit of Greek island hopping, and that was all VOR DME approaches, which is quite nice. We're starting to get a bit of a wobble on the old wings, but trying to work out if it's the actual ailerons bugging out again as they usually do, or if it's something else. Let's see. We've got 24 knot crosswind currently, as you can see on the nav display. So our track is offset. You can see the aircraft's anchoring itself in, so that yellow line is actually our heading. But because of the crosswind, our track is keeping us on the line, so we're facing away from it basically. Martin, that's a very good question. Whenever you connect to the vPilot system, whenever you spawn in actually, so you spawn cold and dark at stand, and when you activate your radio, make sure you just don't click anything in here, because if you do, the sim will force itself onto the in-sim AI ATC. What you need to do is just connect using the actual box here and just set whatever frequency required is on vPilot. So because we're on Unicom, there's no ATC at the moment for us, we're just on 122.8. So we've got one vote for the VOR for runway 33, and we've got one vote for the ILS runway 04. So I need a decider to vote for me. Whilst I dig out the charts there. Tomorrow we're going to fly into LaGuardia from Boston, Logan. Every now and again I'll have a little look on the VATSIM events charts, and there's one tomorrow, 30 hours of ATC at LaGuardia. Which is something they do every 4 times a year, I think it said. So I'm going to give that a go. Neil wants the VOR. Tan wants the VOR. Mr. Espresso wants the ILS. So we've got 2 votes for the VOR at the moment. Which would be the Lucer 3 Whiskey arrival actually if we had to change. It's quite a loose VOR approach actually, it just brings us in via Bameb over the fjords. So let's have a little look at the loose whiskey charts. Start. Okay, that seems pretty good. VOR then, cool, we shall do that. Neil's asking if we'll use the TCA side stick. I've got the T-Flight HOTAS X full flight kit. So it's a side stick and a separate throttle as well. Martin, yep. In fact, I could do it here for you now if you wanted to. So I could do a direct to EVSET or MICNU to show you. And it should just remove those two. It hasn't done Guldu because that's the one that it's using us to fly past, so it'll be interesting to see if we go back to that, but it shouldn't do, it should work absolutely fine. The LaGuardia event, Dominic, yeah, that's going to be really good. I was having a little read through it actually, and it suggests that it's quite a tricky approach procedure into LaGuardia, and it's got some particularly complex departures as well, so we're going to give the arrival a go during the event. So we're going to do the VOR approach. I'm just having a little look to make sure we don't fly past AVSET and turn back. But to change the approach, all we would do is go to that bottom bit and destination, and we're going to change the arrival to the VOR DME runway 33, and then we're going to use the Lucer 3 Whiskey arrival instead of the Lucer 2 Papa. Squad height, yeah, 958 subs, yeah, we're getting close to 1,000 now. So that's our VOR approach input ready to go. And it should look completely different for us now. There we go, that looks a bit better, yep. in via BAMEB. Interestingly, was it HK863 and 984 or 948? There we go. Perfect. And we've of course got our VOR frequency input there. We need to know the actual runway course, so we can look at the charts in a short while and get that. I'll show you guys how to set that. If you're wondering how to do it yourself, I've actually created a load of tutorials for everybody to use. There's a load of VATSIM tutorials as well, a little mini series to help out with people getting started on the network, and some VOR tutorials, arrival procedures and things. But as always, on the Discord server, if there's anything at all you guys would like to see, then just let me know on the content suggestions channel on there. Or of course you can pop it into the live chat here and I'll make a note of it. Let's dig out those charts. I haven't got long left of Navograph actually, I'm not paying for it, so in about a week the 1 month expires. This is our approach then, LUCEP, flight level 100 at or above, as we can see here, and there's a hold for us there, so if we have to do that, if it's particularly busy, especially if it's a VATSIM event, we'd have to enter the hold. We've got the outbound course of 352 there for that hold outwards with a max speed. But inbounds we're going through Nappen, and then we've got the max speed of 250 knots. That would indicate we're going to be below 10,000 at that point. Descending down to these two waypoints here, and then to Topi, where we have to be at or above 3,000 foot and max speed of 220 knots. Interestingly, Topi isn't in our flight plan, I've just noticed, and you can see there we've not actually headed back on ourselves, so the direct 2 seems to work. So before BAMEB and after HK948 there should be a waypoint called Topi, and we're using the Navograph data as well, so that's a little surprising there. That's obviously not working as it should be, which is crazy because some people are paying 90 quid a year for this and it doesn't work for them. But go back to the charts. We've got RMP runway 33 there, or VOR runway 33, which is the one we want. And we can see there we're going to fly in via Topi, and then we're going to turn right down to BAMEB for this 12 DME initial approach fix. Now, one thing to note on this particular approach, we've got Helsinki Malmi. We're going to fly directly over that at probably about 1,000 foot or so, and you can see there we've got a caution box. Caution: Helsinki Malmi Airport lies under final approach course at 4 nautical miles from the runway threshold, runway 33, and may be mistaken for Helsinki Vantaa. So we're going to be low over Malmi Airport as we fly direct up to runway 33, tracking that VOR frequency of 114.2, and we've got our runway course, runway heading of 324 degrees, which we can put in here. 324 input. And then we've got our approach plates there, so we can see at 12 DME we're at 3,000 foot at BAMEB, and at 7 DME we want to be at 2,000 foot, and then, yeah, as I thought, we'll be about 1,000 foot flying over Malmi Airport. And we've got our decision heights at the bottom here as well. So if we didn't have the 5 DME, we would obviously have a much higher missed approach altitude, but we're going to be using this one, so 580 or 433 on the rad out. 433 is in range, so we can go ahead and just use that one. And when we get a bit closer we'll review that a bit further. Martin, yeah, we've got AIRAC 2013 beta installed. Archer's asking that there are lots of times when the approach on the airplane computer doesn't match the charts. How do I deal with these issues? What I tend to do is just try and fly as best as I can to the charts themselves, if that's the case. So I'll make a note of the approach and I'll then have to just try and manually work out how to fly it as the charts tell us to. That's a good question, because unfortunately there is a lot of that in this sim. LaGuardia tomorrow, for example, I would imagine that's going to be particularly tricky, and I imagine some of the arrival routes are going to be quite broken in the sim. So we're going to really use the charts tomorrow and work out what we're supposed to be doing. Or at least try to work out what we're supposed to be doing. Lower box, so there's Lucet in about 200 nautical miles, so that's good. William, good afternoon, welcome, hope you're well. Hope you had a good day yesterday. And we've still not got any V-Pilot stuff on. Martin, that's a very good question. How do you book at an airport for events? Well, some of the airports don't require booking. So the event tomorrow, for example, there's no booking system involved for it. So you just log in and you fly in during the event, and it's down to the controllers to then try and manage all the traffic, which could be quite hectic, but it could be quite enjoyable as well. Usually that might mean as well that we have to do a lot of holding. So they always recommend at the bottom of the event details to add extra fuel for holding, and I've held for 1 hour plus before during an event. The Lapland event actually that we flew into on a live stream a few weeks ago, there were aircraft that were just flying a holding pattern for 3.5 hours, which is absolutely crazy. But we flew in just as the event was starting, so we didn't get any of that, thankfully. William, yeah, my day was very good actually, thank you. Lots of food, of course. Martin, are you feeling that you're going to throw yourself into that live event tomorrow at LaGuardia? That's a very good question, Martin. I think during the event tomorrow, if it's LaGuardia, for example, they might tell you that they can't handle VFR traffic, but you can log on and try. Whenever it's been really busy on events, I have heard people log in to do some circuits before, and they've been told no, because of the amount of IFR traffic coming in. You'll find that IFR traffic always takes precedence over VFR. So you might be in the circuit, for example, and then there could be 10-20 aircraft flying in, and you'll just be pushed further out. So that's something to bear in mind. You're probably better off in an airliner. However, let me just have a little look at the VATSIM event. Let's see, vatsim.net, members events. What I'll do actually, I'll get the link to it, and then I'll stick it in the live chat. So they're saying that LaGuardia is continuously covered for 30 hours, 4 times a year, from 12 PM Eastern today, which is 5 o'clock Zulu, 5 PM Zulu, through to Sunday 6 PM Eastern, or 2300 Zulu. You know what, it actually does say, come on down to the SFRA in your GA aircraft, or grab your airliner and attempt the Expressway Visual 3-1 if wind permits. Which is what I'm hoping for tomorrow, because that is meant to be particularly difficult. But yeah, definitely, that sounds like, Martin, you can do the VFR. And this is there, maybe try your hand at some of the complex departure procedures. Don't forget to read those charts along with your aircraft setup. So I would Martin, in that case, I would definitely log in. If you want to do VFR, I'd log in and do some VFR. Fly around the Hudson and in and out of the airport. You could log in, I think, in remarks for the flight plan. You just write in the flight plan local VFR, and then you can buzz in and out of the airfield. Then you can do a circuit. You could then depart, fly around New York, come down the Hudson, and then fly inbound back into LaGuardia for some circuits. It would certainly give them a challenge. So, but yeah, I'd agree there. It does sound like you could do VFR, so you should definitely throw yourself in. It gives them a variety of traffic to deal with as well, so it gets challenging for them then. I've never flown in the States on VATSIM though, so I'm not quite sure what to expect. I'm still yet to do VFR actually on VATSIM. I'm still trying to get my head around it all. Used to be quite good at that, but that's all obviously a skill that I've lost over time. So we should be coming up to the halfway point, I believe. Let's have a quick look at Navograph. Yeah, there we go, bang on halfway actually already, which is good. And we need to work out our approach, or our descent, because we have to be level at 10,000 foot at or above by Lucep. So our descent is going to be around Top, which is up there, or Atson rather, if that gives us enough distance. Martin, yeah, I think you're correct actually. Although the charts, have a little look at the charts, because you might find that certain airfields might want traffic to fly left circuit instead. So I suppose it depends on the airfield, but I think in the US, yeah, you're completely correct there. There's Lucep. Napping at 10,000. Gosford, which is there. So actually at Gosford we'll start a descent down, I think. So 60 miles. We'll start a slow descent. At least then, if we do end up low, we can get a bit more scenery around us as well. If you guys are looking for an airport in Norway that's quite nice to fly out of, Tromsø is really nice, and there's now a freeware scenery mod as well for it, which apparently is particularly good. I think it got released a couple of days ago on flightsim.to. Personally, I'm yet to check that out yet, but it does look really nice actually from the photographs. When I was last flying out of Tromsø in the sim, it was a Fly UK route back to the UK, and the departure was particularly nice. You're flying out over the fjords, so I'd imagine during this weather, with it being particularly icy and cold, it would be quite scenic, at least in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Now, if you guys were wondering what this is, as well, just while I'm thinking about it, it's a seat position indicator. So you can see there, if we move to that position, we're actually not quite aligned. You want the red blob to almost be blocking the white, and then you get a good seating position apparently. Which for us is technically apparently that. And likewise then, if we go to the first officer side, which I'm yet to fly actually on this side of the plane, might give it a go at some point. That would be good for us, because you've got the red obscuring that left white blob, and we're pretty much, that centre of my screen actually is directly over the primary flight display. But the default, I've got it set up slightly differently there, so I'm a little bit lower than I could be. Oh, Martin, that is a good question. I'm not sure actually. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you commit to a VFR, if you can then change to an IFR, or how that works with VATSIM. I don't see why you couldn't. As that dropped out the climb gate, let's put that back in again. There we go. Thing is, I suppose on VATSIM the difficulty would come, you're having to log in onto the network as a VFR flight. So you'd select VFR on the drop down in your flight plan tab on vPilot, and then for your route you just type in local VFR, and that would cover you to fly wherever you want basically. Visual flight rules. I think then the difficulty would come if you were going to change to IFR. You would probably have to file a flight plan and then request it in mid-air, I guess. Rave's very good question. Do you have to do an ILS landing in VATSIM, or can you do direct landing as well? You can request whatever landing you want, I guess. If you want a visual, you could request a visual approach. I've had to complete a visual approach at Manchester before because we were flying a live stream after a patch where it broke everything. So I ended up flying the entire start and approach manually, and I had to ask the controller at Manchester for a visual approach, which he gave me without problem. But I think it depends really. So today, for example, if we had Helsinki Tower on, we could request an ILS. If the runway in use was 04, it would be an ILS landing. If it's runway 33, which is what the winds favour currently, we could choose either an RNAV approach or a VOR approach, and then I would ask for a VOR approach. But it's down to us. Some airports would dictate what approach is in use, but if you're unable to fly that approach, you can just let them know and then request an alternative. So I guess there's no harm in asking. I think depending on if you're in an airliner, for example, you probably wouldn't be able to do a direct landing on VATSIM with area controllers and things, because they would be vectoring you in around other aircraft on the network. So I think then the difficulty would come that they're going to have to then work to separate everybody around you so you can fly a visual approach. So I guess in those circumstances they would probably ask you not to. Reeves, so the final approach fix, it depends on the ILS, I guess, but effectively you're just looking out for that whilst you're flying the approach. Let me have a little look on some charts to try and explain it. So let's use 04 right as if we were going to use that. So let me show you this. Let me know if I'm not understanding the question though, if I'm going off on something else. So if we were going to use 04 right today as an example, we would have in the RadNav page of our MCDU 111.5 typed into the ILS frequency box on the RadNav page, and that would tell the aircraft when we arm approach mode, it would tell the aircraft to be tracking that localizer. But you want to intercept around 30 degrees for the to intercept the ILS, and you want to make sure, if the chart says like 3,300 for example, you want to make sure you're intercepting the glide slope at or below that level, because you some aircraft for example can't chase from above, but you want to intercept from below so that you get that nice glide slope all the way in. And then it says there, when cleared by ATC, final approach fix at 2,300, LAVD 6.7 DME. Which would be here, but it's not in the charts. So basically, you'd be given ILS clearance, and you're just tracking that position on the waypoint, or 6.7 from the ILS, so 6.7 miles out from the airfield, from the threshold. So it's more of a visual reference point really. If that answers your question. Dominic, no, I found that the latest patch seems to have broken a lot of the IVAO stuff again, and a lot of the Megapack liveries and the way they appear, which is a little odd. Loose up in 80, so we'll start a slow descent. We want to go down to 10,000 feet. Raves, thank you very much. That's good to hear. If there's anything in particular that you'd like to see for a tutorial for VATSIM or whatever else, if there's something specifically that you want, then just let me know. Either on here on the live chat while you're with us, or on the Discord server in the content suggestions channel, and we'll try and get it all sorted out. I'll take a lot of requests. For me, the point would be that I'm just trying to help people enjoy VATSIM a bit more, and if I can do that via tutorials, people can then watch it. So glad you enjoy it. Tawny, hello. Yeah, no Greece for today, I'm afraid. We're checking out stunning Finland. Reeves, yeah, you know what, the very first time I logged in to VATSIM, I sat on the apron for about an hour, worried that I'm going to sound stupid on the radio to the controllers, or sound new, and make mistakes, but after about an hour I just figured I should just throw myself into it and give it a go. And I didn't really have any sort of easy to follow tutorials to watch, so that's why I've created the ones on my channel for everybody else. I think if I'd have had something like that, then I would have probably got on the network a lot quicker, because I spent quite a few days actually preparing for my first VATSIM flight, and now all I ever do is connect to the network. I love it. When it's very busy though, it can get a little stressful. I'd imagine quite stressful for controllers too, because there can be a lot happening all at once. You're having to manage the aircraft, fly everything, input things into your MCDU, and change vectors and speed restrictions and all sorts of stuff. Let's pull the latest METAR. So EFHK Tawny, yeah, very good point. I'm always happy to help. Reeves, one of the biggest tips I'd probably mention would be to, when you're filing your flight plan on vPilot, in the remarks box, type in there that it's your first VATSIM flight, so that they know and they can try and help you out. So it's asking us to enter our destination data. We've got winds 340 at 4 knots. So that definitely favours runway 33 for that VOR approach. QNH of 1009. Temperature -2. Very cold. And we haven't got a controller or anything on, so what I will be doing is having a little look at the charts for a transition altitude. It's telling us on the charts it's 5,000 feet. And from our approach plates we've got our decision height of 433, and that's when we get the minimums call out on our aircraft, and it's linked to the rad out at the bottom of your primary flight display. Richard, hello, welcome. Yeah, that's a great tip. Make sure you know how to fly the aeroplane and all the quirks, and understand what bugs you might get during your flight as well, and how to deal with those bugs. And then if anything comes up, you can just go ahead and manage it all yourself. QNH 1009. So what I like to do is get that ready during the descent. So we've got Lucerne in 60 nautical miles. We've got 15,000 feet to lose. Yeah, I think Richard, you make a good point there. That's part of the problem, I think, for Microsoft Flight Simulator, is the fact that with this VATSIM official partnership that they've so-called got, the nav data, which we need to rely on for it for IFR, doesn't really work, and it can make it a little bit more difficult, or certainly more difficult than it needs to be. Over time, as the sim develops and grows and matures, it'll be incredible though. So after Lucette, we want to continue our descent down to 3,000 feet. Tan, yeah, very great. That's a good point. If you're based in the UK, I always recommend flying out of somewhere like Edinburgh. Or flying into an airport like Edinburgh with one runway, just a couple of taxiways and a few stands, so that way you can start to get your head around the charts, and because it attracts less traffic as well, there's a lot less stress involved with you trying to learn and complete your very first VATSIM flight with a whole load of experienced simmers around you as well. So it takes the pressure away as well if you're at a smaller airport, and if there's only one runway as well, you tend to know exactly what approach you're going to use and exactly what sort of star you're going to use as well. And that means then as well, most of the time you get less changes in your MCDU. Learn codes, hello, very well, thank you. Hope you've had a good Christmas. Let's pop constraints on. At some point the aircraft is going to start to target that speed constraint there, 220 knots, which is incorrect actually. It should be 250 knots, below 250. But it's going to target that at some point and slow the aircraft down. For those of you new to the channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button down below. We're on the climb now to 1,000 and hopefully beyond, so click that button down below and head to our Discord as well if you want to join us for our 1,000 subscriber group flight that we will host once we reach that target. It will be on the standard multiplayer on Microsoft Flight Simulator as well, so there's no VATSIM or anything to worry about. We'll just go and blast about for a couple of hours. So there we go, that's targeting that speed constraint of 250 now, as we can see. Which is good, but one thing to watch in the aircraft at the moment as it is, because it is under development still of course, it tends to overfly that constraint and then target the wrong speed limit again, so it forgets the constraint sometimes. So we're going to have to watch that as we descend. What I tend to do is then go ahead and manually select a speed if it gets itself confused again. Tawny, yeah. So on the vPilot client, at the very top, you've got disconnect, mode C, ident, and flight plan. And flight plan is where you would input all of your waypoints, and you'd build your flight plan so the controllers can see what you're doing. Inside flight plan, of course, you've got a bit that says route, and you'd put your route and waypoints and everything in there. And underneath that there's one that says remarks, and what I always type into there is MSFS, so they know that we're on Microsoft Flight Simulator and we might have some problems. But if it's your first ever VATSIM flight, I always recommend to type in the remarks box, first ever VATSIM flight, so that they know they can help you and guide you along if you get into any difficulty. And if it gets really bad and you start to really struggle, you just quickly tell them you're disconnecting and disconnect. They don't mind that. So into our descent now. Once we pass Lucep, we're going to call up on Unicom. There's an aircraft flying in for the ILS runway 04 right, but obviously he's going to land with a crosswind. We're going to land on runway 33 with a direct headwind. And there's that bug that I just mentioned, where it forgot the constraint. It snapped itself back again though, interestingly enough. But I'm going to manually take over, and we'll do 235. We're going to fly the VOR DME runway 33. So when I call up Helsinki traffic, you could type it in like the Lufthansa flight did just then. You could just type it in on the chat function, but I like to try and stick to voice. That's all set up ready. I'm just going to check to make sure I've got that all ready to go. Yeah, you can see there it's already now tracking that Helsinki VOR. So if we snap to VOR 1 at the top here, clicking that switch to activate it on the nav display, we can see we're exactly 60.9 nautical miles away from the airport if we were flying direct to it. So we're going to go ahead and leave that active for now. There is a change coming, so when you see that your flight plan has disappeared when you're on LS or VOR, don't be surprised. We've been testing that over the last few weeks for the fly-by-wire team, and basically on those two settings on the rows, your entire flight plan will disappear. But that's not too much to worry about. Yeah, Dominic, that's bizarre. What I would probably recommend at that point is to yeah, you've cleared your community folder, haven't you, and added folders back in to try and find the one issue, right? And Lucep in 15 miles, and we're just coming up to 10,000 now. So actually, we've pretty much nailed that. And what I will then do is continue our descent down to 3. Yeah, very good question. So plus or minus would just basically mean above or below that altitude. And what you could do, it doesn't work for any stars, so I can't physically go ahead and change these now. But if let's have a little look. So HK948, for example, I could change that to. Let's do at or below. At or below 5,000. There we go. If you wanted at or above, we would do a plus. And the speed constraints, of course, as well. We could just type in 250 or whatever else into the scratch pad and enter that there when that gets implemented. Performance page. We're going to want to activate approach phase shortly. The fly-by-wire mod has never given me a crash to desktop, Dom. The one thing that has been giving me issues is some of the AI models. So I found there was one, it was really annoying as well because my community folder has got hundreds of folders inside of it, so when I did experience a crash to desktop I was having to try and work out what was the issue, and it turned out to just be one Helvetic Airways livery giving me the problem. Let's do that, those on. We'll leave the icing on because it's cold and the sim still deals with icing very badly. If there's no, that's a good question again, Art. If there's no plus or minus before the altitude, then it means at. So it means exactly that altitude. So when you pass that waypoint, it won't let you go above or below or above that altitude for that particular one. Kevin, providing you've installed the very latest update to the A320NX, you should just be able to continue to re-input. Not on this page, but you would have to go back into ATSU menu, AOC, and you'd have to go back into this init press. And with your new SimBrief already generated, you press that button to feed all the data in. Once you've landed, so it'll have reset your initial page, and then at that point you can go ahead and re-request the data into the init A as well. So give that a go. Make sure you've got the very latest development version, of course, as well, Dom. Kevin. Starting to get some scenery now coming out. The clouds start to break. Helsinki traffic, Finnair 534 inbound, Lucep 3 Whiskey arrival, Rovieniemi 33. Over the next few days as well, we might be flying into Washington. Was it Reagan National Airport, and that's got a particularly tricky approach. It involves flying all the way down the river and then a very sharp turn in, depending on the runway in use, because you can't obviously fly near the Pentagon or the White House or anything. So we're going to give that a go potentially over the next few days. And of course LaGuardia tomorrow for the 30 hours of ATC event that we're going to fly into and take a look at. 32 miles now to Helsinki, and we're continuing our descent down to 3,000 feet. We can configure some bits. Tan, that's quite frustrating, getting your crash to desktop just before takeoff. There's probably no worse timing for it. Now, of course, we've got auto brakes set. We've got. I was testing this a few days ago. We get the announcements in the PFD now as well. And when we touch down, one thing that I'm not sure if you guys will be able to see it, depending on your screen size. When we touch down on auto brake low, we will now get the correct 4-second delay from wheels touching down, main carriage touching down on the runway. Then the brakes will activate after 4 seconds, with decel then activating there. If we had medium auto brake set for a shorter runway, it would have brake med, and when we touch down there's a 2-second delay from main gear touching down, and then we would get decel and the brakes activate. Gadget, hello, welcome, no problem at all, Merry Christmas. Hope you've had a good day. And yeah, the clearances, I know the clearances for some airports could be particularly cool, so hopefully we'll get some good ones. But I'm not sure if there's any differences. There shouldn't be too many problems flying in the US. Of course, their altimeter readings are different, like they are in Japan, inches of mercury instead. So about 25-30 miles direct to Helsinki Vantaa. We've got about 50 miles really, with the approach factored in as well. Matthew, hello, welcome. We're going to fly into LaGuardia tomorrow. I'm not sure if you've missed that yet or not seen it on the channel yet scheduled. We're going to fly Boston to LaGuardia for this bigger VATSIM event that's taking place. Same time as usual. I tend to always stream at 1 o'clock, which is odd. Vectors, brilliant. We'll give it a go, we'll see how bad it gets. So Helsinki's Vantaa's just below the clouds there. I'm not sure actually, Gadget. I'm on a 3600X. Let's have a quick revision of the charts then for our approach. So you can see our position with the magenta arrow, flying along that Lucep 3 Whiskey arrival, and we're going to head down to HK863, out on 144 degrees to Topi. So because it doesn't have it in the sim, at HK948 I'm going to manually select 144 degrees and track 5 miles, and we're then going to fly out to where Topi should be, because it's not in our nav display annoyingly. This is with Navograph data as well, so that's annoying because that's expensive. And then we're going to make our right turn for finals. So make a quick note of that. 144 degrees, 5 nm to Topi. And approach. You know what I've not done? QNH. Approach runway 33 VOR. And there we go. Turning right to join BAMEB at 12 DME, and then we're going to fly in that final approach. Noting, as we did earlier, we're actually going to fly directly over Helsinki-Malmi at about 1,000 foot. So that's going to be something to watch out for. And our missed approach altitude is 433 feet, linked to the rad out. So BAMEB at 3,000, 7 DME at 2,000. And then our final approach to runway 33 VOR. So we'll give all of that a go. And some nice weather actually. Although unfortunately no everybody's using ILS 4. Good. So we've hit the decel point, so the aircraft's automatically put itself into approach phase. So if we go to managed speed now, thanks to the fly-by-wire mod, we'll decelerate to that green dot, and then the auto thrust will kick in and hold that until we select flaps 1. Yeah, Navograph, it comes with some data, and frustratingly, that's either not talking to the sim correctly or that's not correct either, because it's missing, as we saw just now, it's missing some key waypoints, which in my mind is not really good enough for a payware package. Being a beta, they should really offer it at a discounted rate for people on the sim until they can get it up and running properly. Well, as I said, I've updated AirAC 2013, so I've done that 1 month, £8 to keep that AirAC for the whole year, so I'm not going to bother with it anymore beyond that. The charts, I'll use chartfox.org for free charts and things like that, so I'll make it work. I prefer free options over paid for options, definitely. Should be turning left any second, and then we'll have to fly into the flight deck, we'll head into the flight deck rather, and start to track the ILS. I'm going to try and catch Malmi as we fly over it, because that's potentially going to be quite interesting to see, going straight over that at 1,000 foot. But I might be flying manually by that point, so if that happens, then I won't be. Gadget soon, the fly-by-wire mod is going to have an electronic flight board in it, so that's going to be really cool. DCS, I've given it a go back in August, and a lot of people love it. I didn't like it at all, to be honest. I suppose it depends what you're looking for, but I found the DCS that I had anyway. It had 2 aircraft, both were particularly bad, and unless I wanted to pay £80 for another one, I was stuck with those. So I decided they could lump it, and I uninstalled it. That's all good. See what signs and stuff are on. Got the icing on, and we should be turning any second. Interesting, we're turning the wrong way. Get involved. Microsoft Flight Simulator at its finest, eh? So that was taking us direct to runway 33. Look, it's decided to ditch all the rest of it and just go straight to the runway. So we have to watch out for all of that in the sim, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, personally, Matthew, I wouldn't bother paying for stuff like that. So we've got 6.4 miles now, 6.5 miles from the airport. You can see there we've got HK948, and we're missing Toppy from the data, which is wrong. For 4 degrees, as it said on the charts. Bogeyman, definitely. I think that is a. I do think Pushback Express is worth it. They've got a 30% off sale at the moment. Winter 2020, I think, is the code that they're using, and definitely, I think they are. I think it is worth it, to be honest. Let's go to that view. And let's get flaps 1. So we're going to hold 3,000 foot until Bamab, which is our initial approach fix on a 12-mile final approach, and we're going to be using the VOR as we voted for earlier. Some wind flex going on there. Look at that, that's cool. And I'm trying to guess where Toppy is, but effectively it's going to be in line with Bameb there. Then we're going to turn right, because that waypoint is missing, unfortunately. Yeah, it is. Yeah, Gadget. It is still buggy. Sometimes, interestingly, the pushback tug and things just the air bridge decides to move itself back away again, which is a little bit odd. But it is definitely worth it. Tawny, if you're on, what I'd recommend is using ChartFox. They should. Last time I checked, they did have charts for Skiathos, but they were older charts, so they looked very different. But yeah, Poseidon, as he's pointing out there, pushback helper is free. That's pretty good. I'm not sure actually. You guys will be able to tell me whether pushback helper has got the ability to add ground equipment. I'm going to get 2,000 foot ready. Let's start our turn. Helsinki Vanta traffic, Finnair 534 is turning base ILS, correction, VOR runway 33. So we've got that Lufthansa on ILS 04. And we're managing our turn to try and reach Bameb, which we can see there. If we're tracking the VOR, as I mentioned in the tutorial on the other day, we're actually heading towards the white arrow to go to the VOR, but our course that we've got set for the runway heading is we want to align the blue arrow there. So a little bit of fiddling involved. You can see at the bottom of the screen there we've got 14.4 nautical miles to go. The great thing with Pushback Express is the fact that you can control all the catering trucks, baggage, the jetway, power, and the fuel truck as well. You can call the fuel truck via that one add-on. So it is pretty good, and it gets updated all the time. So that Lufthansa flight was established on the ILS, so he should be ahead of us by a couple of miles, which is good. We can see that blue arrow on the nav display now starting to come up to meet the aircraft in the centre of the nav display. Some great views coming in. Let's start to slow down. Let's go down to 2,000 foot as per the charts. And we want all call. Not sure if I've pressed that yet. Matthew, some VOR's cheaper, so some airports that are smaller, it all comes down to cost really. Then we use VOR arrivals instead because it's just one station that sends a signal out in every direction, and the aircraft track, depending on that station, they'll track distances from it. So it's a more involved way of flying though. It's quite nice. What was our runway heading? 324 degrees. Helsinki Vanta traffic, Finnair 534 is 10 miles finals VOR DME approach runway 33. Is our runway heading, so that's set. And very shortly we're going to start a smoother approach. So ground speed is about 130 knots for approach. We're going to want 800 foot per minute descent. Let's set that. So we've got that blue arrow nicely in line, which is good. And let's try and see if we can spot Malmo that we're about to fly directly over. That's not it. There it is. So that's Malmo that we're overflying at 1,000 foot. And there's Vanta in the distance. You can see the threshold there for the runway. Interestingly though, that VOR is slightly off, so let's take over. We're going to watch that blue line now, a line away in the wrong direction, so interestingly that's yeah, again another win for Navograph. We'll slow our rate of descent down as well. Oh good, so that Lufthansa traffic is vacated, that's nice. Got our missed approach altitude set. Heading 324, that's that runway heading set as well. And here we go for our final approach for today. Passing directly over Malmo now actually. Not that we can see it. Starting to pick up that localizer a bit better now, or the PAPI guidance at least, that glide slope guidance. It's about 800 foot per minute is what we wanted. Yeah, it is basically an ILS. Rivs definitely. I can do that for next time, so tomorrow we can I'll load up at Boston, Logan, and we'll go through everything setting up. Or separate into multiple videos, yeah, you know what, I could do that as well. I'll work on it. 2 red, 2 white for the Pappies is what we got. Malmi, yeah. Hanu, yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's Malmi, apologise. Malmo is Sweden, isn't it? Is it Sweden? Malmo is Sweden? I'm trying to think now off the top of my head. As our minimums call out. So this is some freeware scenery as well. VOR aligning with the runway is manually done.
50, 40, 30, 20, retard, 10, 5.
Still ice, don't know why. That's where the sim is telling us to go. There we go, we're down. Dan, I'm not sure actually. I've stopped using Sim Toolkit Pro and those sort of mods. For some reason, I was getting all sorts of random. I think it seemed random, the frames per second that I was getting, or the touchdown foot per minute. It all seemed very, very odd. Sometimes it was smooth, but I was getting really hard rate landing. Sometimes it was hard, and I was getting a really smooth rate of landing. So I think it was just guessing. Yeah, thanks guys, nice landing, yeah, thank you. Project Fly, I'll have to look into that, I'm not quite sure what that is. Helsinki traffic, Finnair 534, runway vacated, taxi to stance. There's another aircraft flying in there. So, I'm not sure where Finnair park. Lufthansa's already disappeared. I'm going to park down there because that's where the sim is telling us to go. Yeah. Yeah, I'm using Unreal Weather today, guys. Scenery wise, there's very little for us here. Basically, for the update, they've gone and levelled the airport and worked on a few bits of ground textures, so we've got the markers and things on the taxiways, like we just passed. Inbuilt real life schedules, that'd be quite good. Matthew, your Unreal Weather's broken. Does it cause a crash to desktop, or sometimes it requires a refresh? They said they were landing on runway 14 or 04. Where's that guy? Yeah, established 04, right. So he's touching down over there somewhere. Let's see if I can spot this guy landing. Where's the other runway? Oh, it's all the way over there. Good grief. Well, he's landing on that one anyway. 04 right. Yeah, interesting. We took off out of Rovieniemi and it was absolutely covered in snow, which is quite cool. Gadget, good question. Whenever you see, so as we touched down, I spotted the Gate Gourmet truck and all the ground equipment. Whenever you see all of this together, that's just where the sim has decided that you should park. APU's available. Lead. As we turn in, we'll turn the taxi lights off. There's our marshaller. Don't know if you can see him. Just off in the distance. So if you see all of this grouped together, that's where the sim is expecting you to park. And unless you park here and shut down, it doesn't save your hours into your in-game logbook, which is really annoying because I'm probably minus 100 hours so far plus of sim time because it hasn't input it properly, or it hasn't saved. And there's that guy telling us how to taxi. And you know what? I'm going to do something different, and I'm going to get his viewpoint. So bear with me. Look at all the ice. It's ridiculous. Have you ever seen ice on a plane like that? How about that then? Should we do that? Yes. So. Oh, you know what? I need to disarm drone follow mode, otherwise it's going to keep moving. How's that for a ground equipment view? There we go, and there's our engine off command. Someone asked how we'd re-import a new flight plan. I'll show you guys now. 8.7. So we've touched down, and the MCDU has gone ahead and wiped all of our trip. There's the sim saving our logbook data. So what you want to do, just toggle the jetway and baggage and catering. Go back to MCDU, go back to here, where was it, MCDU, ATSU, AOC, init press. You can go ahead and re-request the data, head to that init A page, and then you'll get init request. So if I press this now, it will bring in our data for the trip again, as if we're about to refly it. And you could do that multiple times now with the very latest master version. And there's Pushback Express. I've triggered the gate, baggage, Gate Gourmet and all the rest of it. Let's turn that off, and the seatbelt signs as well. wing lights off. Look at all the ice on the... Have you ever seen wings? Have you ever seen ice on a turbine? Odd one. Yeah, takeoffs and landing, it's all really buggy actually. I've stopped looking at the in-sim logbook. I wish I'd recorded it all elsewhere actually, to be honest. Matthew, nice. I've never been to Helsinki myself. Big Ben's asked, am I using the stable version of fly-by-wire? No, I'm using the very latest master development version, so I rarely ever use the stable. I always recommend downloading the development version. It'll have all the very latest updates in there. Matthew, the time tomorrow for the flight is 1300 Zulu, taking off shortly after out of Boston Logan, and we'll head into that big LaGuardia event on VATSIM as well, so I'd imagine that's going to be very, very busy for us. And hopefully we get the really difficult visual expressway approach down the river. That's meant to be particularly difficult. So all of you be sure to join us for that. Head to our Discord if you've got anything that you guys want to see coming up in the future. Let me know exactly what you want and I'll get to work for you. Yeah, the ice rendering is really bad. The minute it says -2 you can't get rid of the ice. Hopefully the Asobo fix that soon. But there we go, that's it for today. Short little journey from Rovaniemi to Helsinki Vantaa. Gadget's asked any issues with pushing back in Pushback Express. I did ages ago, and I found that it was interfering with something else was interfering with it, but I can't remember what it was now. But I uninstalled Pushback Express, started again, recalibrated the settings inside Pushback Express, and it was all good. And it all worked again with rudder control, of course, set. I still can't get voice control to work. But thank you all for watching. I hope you've had a great Christmas. I hope you had a good day yesterday, and enjoy the rest of the holiday season. Join us tomorrow, Boston to LaGuardia. And Big Ben, yep, I could work on a tutorial for how to read charts as well. I'll add that to the list of things to do. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all tune in tomorrow.